So this is the brand new Samsung Galaxy S26. Regular, not the Plus, not the Ultra, just the regular base model S26. And I think it's one that a lot of people are probably going to end up buying. It's not going to get a lot of coverage, but it's the most affordable, it's the smallest, and it still packs a lot of the most premium features on a Samsung flagship phone. So I'm a big fan of the best tech in the smallest form factor. So let's go through this phone and see what's new about it, what's different about it, and what's unchanged with it. So let's start off with the design. You can see the design is now pretty unified among the Samsung flagships. Before, Samsung kind of unified everything that was not the Ultra and then just had the Ultra have its own more premium aesthetic. But now the entire S series looks a lot more premium. It looks very similar and you could use any one of them and people are going to know you have a very premium phone. The build quality feels nice, it looks really good, and on the front you can see a 6.3-inch Super AMOLED display, and this display, 6.3 inches, is slightly larger than last year's 6.2 inches. I'm a little bit bummed about that. I really like smaller phones personally, but clearly a lot of people wanted 6.3 inches. That sounds weird when I say it out loud. Whatever, we're gonna leave it in there. The display gets up to 2,600 nits, so it should be plenty bright when using outside, and the refresh rate goes from 1 Hz all the way up to 120, so it's fast and smooth and responsive. But unlike the Ultra, this one does not have that new privacy feature that I talk about in my Ultra review. I have that video published at the same time as this one. In fact, I'm publishing, I think, 5 videos at the same time. So after you watch this one, there's plenty other ones to watch. I talk about the new earbuds, the Ultra, the Plus, and I'll compare the earbuds as well. But anyway, talking about this phone right now. The display overall, super solid. I'm very happy with that. You have the in-screen fingerprint sensor as always, so it is really convenient and fast and just a good experience that you'd expect from a flagship phone. And this phone comes in 6 different colors. Fortunately, the 6 colors are actually the same on the Plus, the Ultra, and the base model here. And the 6 colors are cobalt violet, white, black, sky blue, and there are actually 2 online exclusives you can only get from Samsung's website, which I have linked down below, and that is pink gold and silver shadow. So by the way, you can actually pre-order this starting today. I'll have links in the description down below. There's an exclusive promo you'll get if you go through those links, and I'll have that explained in the description down below. Usually it's like an enhanced trade-in credit, student and military discount, and sometimes some extra cash that you could use towards accessories or maybe the new Galaxy Buds. Anyway, moving on to the cameras. This one's gonna be fairly brief. The cameras are largely unchanged. You have a 50 megapixel primary rear lens, which is pretty solid. In my past testing, I've actually been quite happy with this lens. We may see a slight difference in how the photos look thanks to the new processor on the inside of this phone, but otherwise the telephoto lens is still a 3x optical or 3x optical quality essentially, and that is a 10 megapixel sensor, and then the ultra wide is 12 megapixels. The front facing camera is also 12 megapixels, so that's essentially the same camera system as last year. I was hoping to get a telephoto lens, but I mean, this one still does a pretty decent job, and in the base model, I can give Samsung a pass here. Now, let's talk about the internals of this phone. I mentioned we have a faster processor in here. This is the Snapdragon Elite Gen 5 for Galaxy. Kind of a long name, but just know it's essentially the best chip you can get in an Android phone. It is the same chip you're getting in the Ultra phone, which is significantly more expensive than this one, and you're getting some improvements. So you have 19% faster CPU, so faster processing. You have a 39% faster NPU, which is going to be for more AI type tasks, which are apparently getting quite important on phones, and also 24% faster GPU, which is going to be more useful if you're doing things like gaming on this phone. And across the board, this is really interesting. The S26 base model here really seems a lot like the S25 Plus, but with newer specs. And what I mean by that is in the past, there were things that Samsung just did not give to the base model and they gave to the Plus model, and almost all of those are now existing on the base model here. So one that most people might not even notice that snuck in there is actually the inclusion of ultra wideband. So if you want to use that precision finding feature for locating Galaxy tags, for example, you can now do that on the base model. That's a feature that just did not exist in the base model before. Something that wasn't given to the base model, though, is the full 5G experience. So you still have the sub-6 5G, but you don't have millimeter wave 5G. I think a lot of users would probably never notice a difference and definitely would not care about that difference. But for extreme power users, that could potentially be, never mind. Extreme power users are probably going to buy the Ultra anyway. So I think that one kind of makes sense as well. The battery inside is also almost 10% bigger now at 4,300 milliamp hours compared to last year, which I believe was only 4,000 milliamp hours. Considering the size of the display, I think you should be getting an excellent battery life on this phone, although it is still not a silicon carbon battery, as a lot of other phones have kind of adopted that. Still, it should be getting you a pretty solid battery life. The charging is 25 watts for wired charging and 15 watts for wireless charging. And get this is really subtle, and I'm excited to get the phone in the studio and really test this out to see if this is actually true. But in the press release, it said that reverse wireless charging on this works for, listed a whole bunch of devices, and in there it included the Galaxy Watch 8 series and the Galaxy Watch 7 series. And those are watches that were not included. Well, the 8 didn't come out at the time last year, but the 7 wasn't included last year because it wasn't able to be charged with the reverse wireless charging on phones. So I'm not sure if Samsung changed anything about the reverse wireless charging, but I'm excited to try that because it is on their press release, and hopefully that now gives us the ability to travel with your watch and your phone and not have to bring an extra charger. That's one of my favorite features about the Samsung ecosystem, and I'm really hoping that we're bringing that back this year. Oh, also, the storage on here is now doubled. The base storage is no longer 128. You start at 256 gigabytes, and it comes with 12 gigabytes of RAM, and you can also upgrade the storage when you're buying, but that will give you 512 gigs, which is the larger option there. So the price on this, I'm a little bit, it's $899. Ugh. Kind of hate to say it, that's $100 more expensive than last year, but you are getting a bigger battery, you're getting double the storage, and you're getting a number of other improvements across the board. I think the storage alone, if you look at that one, does make sense. This is now priced basically at what you'd be paying for the mid-tier storage last year, although not everyone needs that much storage. A lot of people are happy to just get the cheapest phone they can in that S tier. Of course, this still has IP68 water resistance, and we have some new features on this phone as well. So obviously Samsung's leaning a lot into AI. Some of it might be gimmicks, some of it might be very useful. Honestly, I kind of have a mix of my own uses of AI. I use it more than I would expect to have used it a couple of years ago, but the features that they added, one of them is in the Gallery app. So you had Magic Eraser, very useful, honestly, but now there's a lot more of a generative editing aspect to this where you can add things in there. So if you want to change the background, add a shirt, add something from a different image, maybe a hat from a different image into an image of you, it's really able to do all of that. And it's quite impressive that all of that is baked into your Gallery app. Basically, it's not a whole lot different than Google's Nano Banana if you just went to the Gemini app, but it's nice that it's baked into the Gallery app that you already have. We also have enhanced circle to search, and alongside Bixby, of course, you can use Gemini, or you can use Perplexity now as well as your default voice assistant. Another feature is called call screening, which is very similar in one aspect to Google's call screening, but this has two different sides to it. So the one side that's similar to Google is that it can answer the phone for you. You can tap on that, it'll do the transcript, and you can decide if you want to pick it up. Maybe if you're in a meeting and your girlfriend calls or your wife calls, you could do that, screen the call just to say like, hey, is this important? And if they're like, yes, this is really important, you could pick it up. Or if they're like, no, it's just saying hi, you could type back on your phone like that. But the other side is probably more beneficial for elderly individuals, where it can listen along throughout your call and give you warnings if it seems like these are tracking patterns of a scam call, for example. Not everyone needs that, but there are some people that this could really be a huge lifesaver for them. So that is the Galaxy S26 base model. Overall, a ton of improvements across the board, more storage, bigger display, better processor, better battery, and although it is $100 more expensive and slightly larger, two things I was personally a little bit disappointed to see, I still think this is a really good value for a lot of people, and of the Samsung lineup, this could very well be the best phone to buy. Of course, I will be making a comparison, so get subscribed if you haven't already. And now, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in those videos. So this is the brand new Samsung